Greetings from Dayton, Ohio, the
Hey,
Gem
hey,
City. Yeah,
hey. This
I'm
is Tom
Amelia.
here.
Whoops, go ahead. You go first.
Well, this is Tom here.
This is Amelia here. And I thought we were going to be in the Gospel of Matthew, but now we're back to John, which is fine. John's a good gospel too. And John doesn't get its own year. So we're in John 1, not the very beginning, but pretty close. So Tom will tell us the story as best you can, just having had like 3 days to learn it. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, here we go. Well, this is the story of John the Baptist and Jesus. So the next day, John saw Jesus coming toward him, and he said, "Look, here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. This is the one of whom I said, after me comes one who ranks before me, for he was before me. I myself did not know him, but for this I came baptizing with water for this reason, that he might be revealed to Israel." And John testified, "I saw the heavens opened and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove and resting on him. I myself did not know him, but the one who sent me to baptize with water said to me, the one on whom you see the Spirit descend and remain is the
One who
one
baptizes with the Holy Spirit.
who baptizes with the Holy Spirit.
There you go.
And I myself have seen and testified that this is the Son of God." Now, the next day, John again was standing with two of his disciples, and he saw Jesus walking by, and he said, "Ha! Look, here is the Lamb of God." And the two disciples heard him say this, and they followed Jesus. When Jesus saw them following him, he turned and said to them, "What are you looking for?" And they said, "Rabbi," which is translated teacher, "where are you staying?" And he said to them, well, come and see." So they went and they saw where he was staying, and they remained with him all of that day. Now it was 4:00 in the afternoon. Now, one of the disciples who followed Jesus was the brother of Simon Peter. And the first thing that he did was he went and found his brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah." And he took him to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. From now on, you will be called Cephas," which translates Peter.
And that's how we know him, right?
That's how we know him.
Mostly, yeah. Okay, just to point out, you forgot to name Simon's brother. So who was he? The one
Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew, right. Yeah. Okay, we got to get Andrew's name in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, very good though. Very good. Okay, well, first off, this story starts with Not then, but the next day. So what's it the next day after?
Well, the next day is the day after John the Baptist was testifying and was baptizing.
Had he baptized Jesus already? Or not?
John and John.
Not
No.
John. Okay. I didn't look, so I was counting on you.
Yeah, well, I'm
Okay, all of you.
it's in Matthew it's only in Matthew that John baptizes Jesus.
Oh, he does in Mark.
Well, that's right. Right.
And probably Luke too. I don't know. I don't know Luke's version so well. But anyway, you see, it's the next day after John's been proclaiming and everything. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So the next day. So he says, sees Jesus and he says, "Here's the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world."
The sin of the world.
Huh? The sin of the world, right? What? All right. So we talked about that a little bit. That's a little thing, but what's the difference between having sin be singular and have it be plural? What's that nuance suggest?
Well, it's on the one hand apocalyptic. The sin of the world is the powers of sin. And so it's a corporate reality. It's the reality of the power of evil in the world. And so it's distinguished from the sins of the world, which are a series of offenses, and is often associated with little things. The sin of the world is the structures of corporate evil.
Okay.
And so we were, thinking about that, about, when you see the news, sometimes I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of evil that there is in the world. Warfare, attacks on people. And so it's that sin of the world that Jesus came to change.
Okay.
And as the Lamb of God.
And Lamb of God, where does that title come from? Because John uses it twice, right?
Yeah.
Both 2 days ago.
There are two primary associations of that name, that title. One is the suffering servant, who is the representative of Israel, and so some of the phrases associated with John or with Jesus as the Lamb of God are phrases from Isaiah, from the suffering servant. And on the other hand, it's the Paschal Lamb reference, the Lamb who is sacrificed at the Passover, and who is then it is sometimes associated with the blood of the lamb being smeared on the doorposts of the house, so that the spirit passes over. Mm-hmm. So there are associations then of the Lamb of God and the blood of the lamb, both in terms of sacrifice, suffering.
I mean, sacrifices like they did in the temple when they had animal sacrifices.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So that's kind of must be one of the places where we get the notion of Jesus's death as some sort of sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And that's associated with this title.
Yeah.
And part of what's going on here is that in this little story, there's a whole development of the theology, the Christology, the ways of thinking about Jesus and who he was and what he signified, and these titles that are through this story.
Yeah, because John also calls him the Son of God, right?
Right.
So that's another significant title.
Right. Yep.
So what's the impact of John's endorsement of Jesus as the Lamb of God, the Son of God? I mean, is that why the disciples just immediately left John and went to Jesus. And how did John feel about that? I guess he didn't mind.
Well, apparently not. There's
Yeah.
no sign of that. The story is, on the one hand, a story about John as the leader of a Jewish sectarian group that followed him. And so part of what's going on here is that that John is asserting that Jesus is greater than and more important than John the Baptist. And that he then is the one to whom John points and recognizes. But it's a strange thing in this story. They are in the same town. He sees him walking by, but apparently there's no implication that they knew each other. And he explicitly says that twice.
Yeah.
I myself did not know him.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. So he passes by, he sees him. He says, "Hey, look at this. This is the Lamb of God." But he doesn't go up and introduce himself or, say, "Hi, I'm John the Baptist. I'm glad to meet you, Jesus, Son of God, Lamb of God," and so on. So this is a story of John pointing to Jesus, and of this being then an introduction of someone who clearly had great authority and significance as a prophet, who himself points then to Jesus and recognizes Jesus as the one who is coming.
Okay, I want a little more about this. So he says this twice. One in the first 2 episodes. I myself did not know him, and it's kind of literally he didn't know him, like you were talking about. But is there
Right.
at both times he's talking about, I came baptizing with water that he might be revealed. That's what he says the first time. The second time, the one who sent me to baptize with water, let me see, said to me, he on whom you see the Spirit descend, that's the one I'm choosing. So is there some other deep kind of meaning to this? I myself did not know him. Is he communicating something else?
Well, on the one hand, it is that John had this, spiritual perception of who Jesus was. Mm-hmm. And so while he didn't know him, he did recognize who he was and that he was uniquely related to God, and also then made clear in his life and death and resurrection who God was. So there's a kind of revelatory character to this story, and of John recognizing that. And so the composer of the story, the storyteller, clearly regards John as a very significant figure, and this endorsement then as a sign of Jesus' authority and unique position in the salvation of the world.
Okay, so the first part of the story is kind of about John and him seeing Jesus, and then it shifts to Jesus and these 2 disciples that have John to follow Jesus, right? And it's just this delightful little conversation. Jesus says, "What are you looking for?" Which is, that you could go quite a ways thinking of, in terms of spirituality, what are you looking for? Right. And they don't really respond directly to that question. They say, "Rabbi, why are you staying?" And then Jesus says, "Come and see." I don't know. That really, it's just delightful. But they do call him Rabbi, so they certainly have a sense that he's a teacher.
Right.
Yep. And that's the first occasion of 3 where we get a kind of an aside to the audience about translation issues. So it says Rabbi, which means which translated means teacher. And then with the second one is Messiah, which is translated anointed. And then at the very end, Cephas, which is translated Peter. So what's this translation going on? Why the need for the translation? And, what are the languages involved?
The rabbi and Mashiach and Cephas are Aramaic and Hebrew. So their Cephas is an Aramaic name, but it's more of a nickname. It's not a kind of an official name that a father would name his son. It's a nickname. It's a way that he would be known, and it's translated into Greek. So these words are translated into Greek, and the assumption behind that is that John's audiences spoke Greek and didn't understand the Aramaic and had to have that translated. And of course, then we have it translated again into English.
Right.
So there's multiple levels of translation going on here.
Okay, great. So after Jesus has come and see, they came and saw, and they stayed with Jesus that day. And then you have this another really delightful element of the story, this wonderful detail. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
Why would they, why would John include that?
Well, this is his story. And so he's also remembering that he was told this story by Andrew, probably, maybe Peter, and that he remembers exactly what time it was. And we talked about that, those moments that you remember when your life changed, when you met a particular person, when you made a decision about what your vocation was going to be, when you heard or experienced God speaking to you in some particular way. Those moments, you can remember exactly what time it was and what the setting was, and you can see that in your memory. And so I'd suggest that everybody, take time now to remember those times when your life changed. And those moments like this one, this was the time when he remembered that he became then a disciple. And so this is Andrew's story, but it's Andrew's story told by John, by the storyteller of the Gospel of John.
Right. Yep. Good story. Good beginning to this gospel. Do we know why
it's a really interesting combination of these little storytelling notes that are highly personal and individual, and on the other hand, all these concepts that are implicit in the names that are being introduced in this highly theological way. And so initially, you look at this story and you think, well, what's going on here? But the more you spend time with it and explore these names and persons and all this, the more it just continues to grow.
I know something else I was going to share. I regularly have mispronounced this nickname that you said Jesus gave Simon. I won't say how I usually say it because I might confuse people, but it's Cephas, right?
I think so.
Okay, so a way to help me remember that was that Jesus says, "Come and see." So come and see. Cephas, come and see, rather than what I used to say Cephas, I think is what I would say. So Cephas, his name is Cephas. Okay, all right. Anything else you want to? Is there some? We usually ask the question, how does this story impact ministries of peace and justice? Have you thought about that at all? Or
yes.
You don't need to force it, but how would you say it?
No, it's not forced at all.
Okay.
When he says, "This is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world," he is talking about ministries of justice and peace to transform the sin of the world And the gospel is then, and the rest of the story is a demonstration of the ways in which Jesus takes away the sin of the world by dealing with the implicit conflicts that are going on in relation to his identity, in relation to the world, and his role as one who takes on the sin of the world and transforms it. So that,
and you mean the structural sin of the world, not the little sins so much, the little drinking,
those two,
or dancing or whatever, but
right,
more emphasis on racism and various
right,
forms of oppression and
warfare.
violence. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us and have a good week.
Right.
Bye.
Blessings.